when I saw the text on my phone that read, "I want a divorce. All communication through my lawyer." My hands froze. No warning. No fight. Just a cold, sharp sentence like a knife to the chest. I stared at those words while my heart thundered in my ears. And all I replied was, "Understood." Then I stood up, took a deep breath, and began pulling every financial string I controlled. 72 hours later, her lawyer was frantically calling me, begging for a conversation. "My name is Ryan. I'm 38, live just outside of Denver, and I thought I had the kind of marriage people envy. At least, I used to think that. My wife, Jessica, and I had been married for 9 years. We met through mutual friends, hit it off right away, and moved fast. Engagement after a year, married 6 months later. I was head over heels, the kind of love where even the annoying habits feel cute. Jessica was beautiful. Smart, charming, the kind of woman who could walk into a room and instantly own it. But what I loved most was how she made me feel seen. Like I mattered. At least, that's what I thought at the time. We bought a house in a quiet neighborhood with wide streets and trees that turned gold in the fall. I remember standing in the living room on the day we moved in, her arms around my waist, whispering, "This is our forever." I believed her. I really did. I worked in finance, running a mid-sized wealth management firm. Long hours, lots of responsibility, but it paid well. Jessica was a freelance designer. Talented, but the income was inconsistent. Still, I never made her feel less than. I wanted her to chase her dreams, so I covered most of our bills. She had full access to our accounts. Her credit cards, her car lease, even her studio rent, all under my name. I didn't care. We were a team. Or so I thought. Looking back, there were signs. Late-night work calls. New friends I'd never meet. Weekends where she'd need space. I tried not to pry. I trusted her. I wanted to trust her. That's what love is, right? But slowly she started drifting. Our conversations became surface level. Our dinners felt like polite negotiations. She stopped touching me, like completely. One night, I reached for her hand during a movie, and she pulled away like I was a stranger. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering what I had done wrong. I asked if she was okay. She said she was just tired. Then, on a random Tuesday afternoon, no fight, no warning, I got the text. I want a divorce. All communication through my lawyer. No, I'm sorry. No explanation. Just done. I stared at it for so long that my phone screen dimmed and shut off. My hands were trembling. My legs went numb. I felt like I was sinking into the floor. I didn't reply with anger. I didn't beg. I didn't scream. I just wrote. Understood. That was the moment the switch flipped. The pain didn't go away, it just got buried. Something cold, sharp, and crystal clear took its place. Jessica wanted to play hardball? Fine. She forgot who she married. After I texted back, understood, I sat in silence on the edge of our bed. Well, my bed now, I guess. The sheets still smelled like her perfume. That same soft vanilla scent I used to love. It made my stomach turn. I scrolled through our old pictures, like a man trying to remember if the life he lived was real or some long con. That we were in Maui, laughing in the sun. Her arms around me on our anniversary. That dinner we had at that cliffside restaurant she loved. How does someone go from forever to contact my lawyer without even a goodbye? But I didn't cry. I didn't even scream. I just fell hollow. That is, until I checked our joint credit card statements. Jessica had spent nearly $7,400 in the past month. New clothes, spa treatments, an Airbnb I'd never heard of in Aspen. We hadn't gone to Aspen. There was even a charge for 2 plane tickets to San Diego. I checked the dates. It was that weekend she said she was visiting her sister. My chest burned. Not like heartbreak. Like rage. Slow, creeping, quiet rage. I opened my email. There it was, the formal divorce notification from her lawyer. No details about custody or assets. Just a generic line. My client wishes for all marital assets to be divided equally and communication to remain between counsel. Equally? She didn't earn a fraction of what I did. She had no idea how finances worked. She had no idea how much she depended on me. And now she wanted me to just walk away? To hand over half of everything while she played house with some secret guy in Aspen? I remembered the moment we merged our finances. She looked at me and said, "What's yours is mine, right?" I laughed and said yes. Like a damn fool. I started digging deeper. I found hotel bookings she made using my Amex. Dinner reservations for 2 at restaurants I had never been to. Even a subscription to a couple's yoga class downtown. I wasn't the other half of that couple. Each click, each charge, it felt like someone was peeling my skin back, exposing nerves I didn't know I had. The worst part? I saw she had transferred $5,000 from our joint savings to a private account just 3 days before sending that text. So she had been planning this, while pretending everything was fine. While sleeping in my bed, eating my food, living in a house I paid for, she was plotting her exit. I called her once. Just once. She didn't answer. She texted back 2 words. Via lawyer. No shame. No guilt. That night, I poured myself a drink. Bourbon. Neat. Sat on the porch in the freezing air until I couldn't feel my fingers. I wasn't thinking about how to win her back. I wasn't thinking about what I'd lost. I was thinking about control. She wanted war, and I knew exactly where to strike. You see. Jessica never bothered to understand the counts. She just spent freely, assuming I'd always be there to refill the well. She had no idea what was coming. She thought she could just walk away clean with her hands full. She thought wrong. The next morning, I sat in my home office with every account open on my screen. My laptop fan whirred like it was about to lift off. Maybe it felt the heat I did. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment. I was thinking about the years, about the way she used to lay her head on my chest after a bad day, about how she'd reach for my hand at parties when she got anxious. Then I remembered the 2 plane tickets, the Aspen Airbnb, the silence when I called. My hands didn't shake anymore. First, I canceled every credit card with her name on it. I had full authority. They were under my name. It was my money. I revoked access to the joint accounts. I rerouted my paychecks into a brand new private account. I locked down the house's equity line and froze the investment accounts we co-owned. She'd wake up that morning thinking she could grab a latte and maybe buy some cute winter boots with my money. She was in for a surprise. But as powerful as that felt, I won't lie, that day was heavy, heavier than I imagined. My mind kept flicking between business mode and emotional wreckage. In one moment, I was calculating account locks and asset protection, and in the next, I was curled up on the couch with tears silently running down my face. Phone clutched to my chest like it could still ring with a different reality. The house was too quiet, echoes where laughter used to be. Every room whispered memories. Her favorite coffee mug sat clean in the dish rack, untouched since Monday. The one with the chip on the handle. I almost threw it against the wall, but I didn't. I just stood there, frozen. I didn't eat that day, or the day after. My appetite left with her. I'd shower, get dressed, sit down at my desk, and then stare at the wall for hours. But I didn't let anyone know. Friends started texting. Everything okay? You've been quiet. You and Jess good. I typed replies, then deleted them, then typed again. I couldn't say the words yet. Couldn't admit that the person I trusted most had pulled the rug out from under my whole life. What hit hardest was this strange new reality where I was suddenly disposable. 9 years of love, dates, anniversaries, dreams reduced to a cold, emotionless text. She didn't even call me to say she was done. Didn't sit across the table and look me in the eyes. I didn't even get the decency of a goodbye. I was mourning someone who was still alive, someone who was probably laughing over wine in Aspen with a man I didn't know. Someone who used to say she couldn't fall asleep without my voice in the room. Now, she didn't even want to hear it. I started losing sleep. I'd lay in bed staring at the ceiling, rewinding everything. The times I defended her when others criticized. The Christmases I spent with her side of the family, even though I hated the drama. The nights I stayed up late fixing her website so she could meet a client deadline. All those things I did out of love, and now, none of it mattered. And yeah, I thought about what she might be telling people. That I was cold, controlling, distant, Maybe she painted me as the villain. People always do when they've already chosen someone else. But I didn't care about her story. I cared about mine. And in my story, this wasn't going to be the part where the sad husband disappears and the cheating wife moves on in luxury. This was going to be the pivot. I started researching. Not just revenge fantasies. I mean real legal strategy. I called a lawyer. A shark. Not the family-friendly type. The kind that smiled while explaining loopholes that would make the other side bleed. We went over every document, every account, every asset. And as we talked, something started to shift in me. Something sharp. Something focused. I began planning. Not with anger, but with precision. I kept things quiet. Didn't tell Jessica what I was doing. She thought she had the upper hand. Thought I'd be too heartbroken to fight back. Thought I'd crawl into a corner and let her lawyer run the show. She didn't know that I was documenting everything. She didn't know I'd found the emails between her and a man named Brent. She didn't know I'd hired a PI to confirm their little getaway in Aspen. She didn't know I had receipts, photos, timestamps. She also didn't know that in our state, proof of infidelity affects division of assets. Yeah, she didn't do her homework. I did. Each day, I got a little stronger, a little colder, but clearer. I wasn't grieving anymore. I wasn't the sad husband sitting on the porch with a drink and a shattered heart. I was the man with the matches, staring at a bridge she thought she'd crossed safely. I wasn't going to burn it impulsively. I was going to light it when she was standing in the middle. By day 4, I had fully stepped into the role of a quiet storm. Not loud, not messy, just controlled and deliberate. I knew I couldn't let emotions drive this. I wanted precision. I wanted to win so thoroughly that even she would question how she ever thought she could outmaneuver me. First step? I met with my lawyer again, a guy named Carl. Ex-military, ex-prosecutor, current predator in a 3-piece suit. He reviewed everything I brought in, the PI photos, the screenshots, the bank activity, the flight confirmations, and smiled. This, he said, tapping a photo of her hand on Brent's thigh in Aspen, is going to be worth more than gold. Turns out, in our state, infidelity does play a role in divorce settlements, especially if it's documented and clearly planned prior to filing. Jessica had initiated the divorce. She thought that gave her power, but she did so while secretly funneling joint funds for an affair, which violated fiduciary duty in marriage. That meant Carl could argue she'd committed marital fraud. Carl's strategy? We file a motion claiming breach of financial responsibility. Demand a full forensic audit of all accounts for the past 6 months. In the meantime, file a temporary restraining order on joint assets, so she can't touch another cent. Oh, and request an emergency hearing to block spousal support based on willful marital misconduct. But that was only phase 1. Next, I called the bank and ensured the mortgage, which was only under my name, had her access revoked. That meant no entry to the house if she wasn't on the deed. I changed the alarm codes, changed the locks, canceled the utilities under her name, had the Wi-Fi re-registered, even the Netflix password gone. Petty? Maybe. Satisfying? You bet. Now here's the fun part. Jessica had a part-time art business. Handmade jewelry. She operated it through an Etsy shop linked to our joint credit card and promoted it through our shared social media. Guess who owned those domains? I did. I registered them years ago under my name because she didn't understand tech stuff. So I took them offline, completely within my rights. She suddenly found herself without income, without access to money, without a house she could enter, and without her little side business. But I wasn't done. She had an event coming up, a local artisan market. I'd supported her through that every year, setting up her booth, driving the van, hauling her displays. She was supposed to be a featured seller this time, her biggest appearance yet. I called the organizer. I'm sorry, but Jessica's vendor license is registered under a business entity that I own. Legally, she cannot represent the brand. I'd like to withdraw it. They were sympathetic, awkward but firm. She lost the booth. Then came phase 2. I filed a counterpetition for divorce. Not just a response, a legal offensive. Citing infidelity. Citing financial misconduct. Citing intent to deceive. Carl drafted the filing so cold it made ice look warm. We included every detail: dates, charges, receipts, photos. He attached over 70 pages of evidence. Then he scheduled the filing for Friday at 9 a.m., right after she had her next lawyer appointment. The timing wasn't random. You see, Jessica was about to find out that the person she thought was helpless had just quietly turned the tide of everything. I also left one thing for her, just one. A single message. I sent it through her lawyer's office, attached to a formal asset audit form. The message read, "You wanted silence. You got it. Let's let the court do the talking." Then I sat back and waited. You know what they say about revenge. It's a dish best served cold. But I was planning to serve it frozen, with legal filings, asset freezes, and a smile that said, "I told you not to mistake my silence for weakness." Friday came. At exactly 9 a.m., Carl filed the motion and counterpetition. By 9:03 a.m., Jessica's lawyer had it in his inbox. By 9:10, I had 3 missed calls from a blocked number. By 9:15, Carl smirked and said, "Let it ring." And we did. Jessica had no idea what hit her. While she was planning a quiet, cold escape with her lover and a chunk of my finances, I had been laying down a silent network of traps. Every move she made, I had mirrored with legal precision. Every secret she tried to keep, I exposed with calm and care. At 11:30 a.m., her lawyer called Carl officially. I was in the room, and Carl put it on speaker. "Carl," the voice said, "I think we may need to reevaluate the basis of the original divorce filing." Carl leaned back. "You mean the one where she demanded full spousal support while simultaneously using joint accounts to fund a hidden affair? That filing." Silence. "I think a settlement may be in order. I believe my client misrepresented the situation." I almost laughed out loud. That afternoon, Jessica showed up at the house. Not inside. She couldn't get in anymore, but at the gate. She looked completely different. Disheveled. No makeup. Hair thrown up in a bun. She was holding her phone, shaking slightly. "I just want to talk," she said. I stepped out onto the porch, but didn't go down the stairs. "We don't need to talk, Jess," I said. "We have lawyers for that." Her eyes welled up. "You're ruining me. I don't have access to anything. My shop is gone. My money is frozen. Brent's not even. He's not what I thought." I held up a hand. "You ended the marriage with a text. You said all communication should go through your lawyer. I'm honoring that." She stepped closer. "I made a mistake." I smiled. Not out of joy, but out of peace. So did I. I married someone who thought love was disposable. Now I've corrected it. Then I turned around and walked back inside, leaving her standing outside the gate of the home she once treated like her backup plan. The silence I had offered at the beginning, it had turned into the most deafening reply she could ever receive. Within a week, she agreed to a settlement that gave her nothing. No alimony, no share of the house, no access to accounts, no business rights, just her name and her shame. I didn't gloat. I didn't yell. I didn't post anything on social media. I let the silence say it all. And I slept better that night than I had in years. They say the loudest revenge is the one you never speak. Jessica expected me to break, to beg, to lose control. But I didn't scream. I didn't plead. I stood still, steady, and let my silence become my armor. Every step she took thinking I was weak only made my comeback stronger. Revenge doesn't always need rage. Sometimes it's quiet, strategic, cold like steel. Now, when I think back to that text, all communication through my lawyer, I actually smile. Because in her attempt to cut me off, she gave me the very weapon I needed: distance. And with that, I turned betrayal into power. I learned something in all of this. You don't always have to fight fire with fire. Sometimes you let the fire burn itself out. So let me ask you this. What would you have done if you got that text from your spouse? Would you burn it all down or go silent like I did?